You're going to take this into the glass and you're going to push it into the felt over here. Hi, this is Drew at the Jeep Farm. So we're gonna do a little thing here, a video on this Jeep we restored for a customer down in Florida. So this actually was my Wagoneer I purchased from the original owner up in Williams, Arizona. He is a World War II vet and bought the Jeep new and actually had all the original documents with the Jeep, including the original Kaiser card. They would type your name on it, identification card. When I bought the Jeep, it was pretty rough and had been painted with white latex paint. I owned it for a while, obviously just bought it so that I could find a buyer for it. And some guys down in Florida purchased this Jeep from us and commissioned us to restore it. And we painted it back to the original President Red, fairly rust-free. I mean, we had to do some quarter panel repairs and some patching in the floor and some other pretty typical Jeep repairs. But we're pretty proud of this restoration. It's a complete nut and bolt, body off frame. It's got a 230 overhead cam, original Tornado motor. It is a hemispherical motor, which is pretty cool. 3 on the tree. We pretty much kept it all original other than a Rebel wire kit. We did a disc brake conversion on the front. Good viewers will notice the track is a little wider than a first-gen Wagoneer, but in order to use the original wheels and clear the disc brakes, we had to use a very thin inch aluminum wheel spacer, which did make the track a little wider, makes the drives a little nicer, but the diehards will notice that it does have a little wider stance. And we did put a small add-a-leaf in the suspension in order to make it not quite so saggy. This particular restoration did take us about 18 months to pull off. It was a long time, but parts for the first generation Wagoneers are really hard to come by. This Wagoneer is a very early, it's a 66, but it's basically a 63 to 65. So it is generically a Willys frame and a Willys wagon running gear with a Wagoneer body on it for all intents and purposes. The steering box is still mounted back here on the frame. It's got a lot of very antiquated parts, and a lot of the parts are hard to find. So I'll tell anybody, if they're thinking about buying a first generation Wagoneer, rust can be repaired, you know, interiors can be redone. The biggest thing like this is to find a complete Wagoneer. You know, ones that have the emblems and the correct chrome wipers and all the little bits and pieces. So no matter how rough it is, if it's complete, you're ahead of the game. But it takes a while. I mean, there was parts of this restoration that we were hung up waiting for magical parts to pop on eBay or this, that, and the other. This is how you traveled across the country back in the day. I mean, this was mom, dad, and the kids driving across the country. I'm doing 50 miles an hour, and you can feel, you know, that this is about, you know, the speed this vehicle wants to go. This is part of the Jeep life. I mean, this is so freaking cool to me to be able to cruise around in something this old, you know, bright red, turns heads, but feel it. It doesn't rattle. body-wise, frame-wise, is basically a 63. There's not any real differences. I mean, this has the 230 overhead cam motor, 3 on the tree. It's got the same frame. It's got the worm and sector gearbox. You know, the next generation after this, when you're talking 1970, you know, they went to a Saginaw steering box up in the front of the frame rail. This still has the steering box mounted right here at the firewall. You know, it's just, it's the way it was back in the day. This is as close to an original Wagoneer as you can get. Like I said, minus the fact that we did add disc brakes. So what we've done on the inside of the Wagoneer is basically restitched all the factory interior, and again, hard to find stuff. You know, factory NOS Wagoneer seat material, which was upholstered back. This was actually a base model Wagoneer, and the owner wanted to step it up into almost a custom model. So we kind of bumped up the quality of it. We added all the stainless steel trim, and we changed the upholstery from the base to a custom. Some of the things that are hard to find are the correct window handles and cranks for the first generation. Flat armrests. So we obviously redid the carpet. Another thing we do on these first generation, the weather stripping runs here and down around here and down around, and is stuck to the door with little springs. So it's not reproduced. So what we did is we welded up all these holes all around the doors, and we went to a second generation type pinch weld rubber door seals. So this, in order to do this kind of thing here, you can see it's kind of pushing it up right there, but we'll fix that later. We have to split the door sills, so we have to cut them and split the door sill in order to accept that weather stripping. We also had the original Kaiser logo sewn in from the old door panels, which have a lot of this plastic chrome, which was just destroyed. So we restitched them in a custom. I buy this trim from a hot rod shop. We put that on there, and then we sewed these into the door panels as best we could. But again, making all the original switches, everything work, restored steering wheel, restored gauges, the radio works. We actually found an original NOS clock, which we added to the glove box. And this AC, being a Phoenix car, was probably put in, I would say, in the mid 70s. And so it's kind of cool and retro, so we decided to use it. It's too big to fit in the center, so it was mounted over there originally. And so we just stuck with that, although we used a modern compressor, condenser dryer, expansion valve, and all the goodies in order to make it work with modern Freon. A lot of people assume Wagoneers are pretty much the same. Generically they are. I mean, if you look at even a 91 Wagoneer, you'll find bits and pieces of the old steel dashboard back there. All the grills are interchangeable with a little bit of work. There's definitely some differences in if you want to transfer this trim over from a late model Wagoneer, you have to hand make this piece here, which we handmade, because this pillar is thicker than it is on late model Wagoneers. You can also see on this Jeep, the owner requested us convert it to shoulder belts for safety. We use a retro belt, and then we welded in tabs in here in order to give a little bit more safety to the Jeep. But back to the rear seat. So when you fold it, the seat belts will come out the bottom here, and then this little guy will come out here, and it stretches out and hooks on there to hold the seat out. And then only first generation Wagoneers have this little door that closes down so that you hide the seat belts when you're using it as a cargo area. And again, some of the issues you'll find if you're into restoring first generation Wagoneers is, you know, you got to modify the carpet. This carpet kit is from BJ's Off-Road. And on a first generation Wagoneer, you will have to modify it and cut it out and have it looped here to clear this door. And this door hides the seat belts, and then obviously the seat's up in this position. And then when you put the seat down, you lift up the door, which locks into place. remove this, that falls down in place, and then the seat belt goes down, the seat goes down and back, and this acts as like a little protector for the back of the seat. Another first generation Wagoneer thing is obviously the tail lights without the massive chrome surround. This Wagoneer actually came without backup lights. The owner asked us to add them in, but this is the correct backup light for the generation. It's a CJ backup light. It is the same thing that come on an early J2000, J4000 Gladiator, all of the above. One of the neat things about these first generation Wagoneers is if you roll the window down, when you go take your lumber back and forth to Home Depot, the license plate flips out so that when you open the tailgate, your license plate hangs straight down. So when you're driving down the road, the police officer can still see your license plate. There are differences, which we've learned the hard way. First generation Wagoneer tailgates are very different from later models. Later models, your alignment pins are out here on the side. These are on the inside and has this style of alignment pin. Another thing they don't make for first generation Wagoneers is the correct tailgate seal. Again, so we use a later generation Wagoneer tailgate seal, and we kind of bring it down and then we drill our own holes so that it does actually seal up against the tailgate. The first generation seal is on the tailgate itself. So as the seals are on the doors and tailgates, and then we have to convert it because nobody makes the correct style. You can see this one has the factory jack, which will go in this compartment right here, hidden in the back. So again, first generation Wagoneer with the Gladiator grill. This is the grill everybody loves. A lot of questions people ask me is, can you convert late model Wagoneers over to this style grill? And the answer is yes. Late model grills have tabs here to hold whichever pig nose, booby grill, muscle grill you have. These headlight buckets are generically the same as a CJ, your pie pans. The biggest difference, however, is your hood latch mechanism. So each one has a different style of latch, and in order to use the Gladiator grill, later models that had them, you have to take your bridge off and you have to have this style of latch in order to open the hood. The pullover style, or the one that you reach through here, obviously you're not going to be able to open the hood. Back to this Wagoneer. So again, late model Wagoneer hood insulation, because the late model braces run here. This is an early gen with the different braces. This really is just a different monster. The opening here is different, but you can see we've added modern air conditioning, modern condenser, modern dryer. It's still the 230 overhead cam Tornado 6. This is a hemispherical head motor, which is kind of cool. And Kaiser Willys actually hired the same guy that designed the MG motor to make this motor, or design this motor for him. It's a torquey little motor. And then you can see here our Rebel wire kit. We convert all these over to modern fuses. Again, this is a 9.3, and we've got this for our air conditioning. We've added a circuit for the AC. So the steering box is down here, which has been fully rebuilt. They did underneath this Jeep. It's actually pretty cool with its the four-wheel drive mechanism is all linkage and pulleys that go under the transfer case, and it's pretty crazy how this thing's designed. Jeep really went out of their way, or I should say Jeep Kaiser, to create the very first SUV, and that's exactly what this is. And this was their first four-door, SUV on the market. And you can see that this has been a complete nut and bolt restoration. It's been a lot of work. In the end, I'd like to say thank you to Peter and Eric who financed this project for us. Like I said, it was my Jeep. I bought it, with the intentions of tooling around and maybe someday sell it, and they really fell in love with it, and it's going to end up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I think it's a great little Jeep. I mean, they're not great at highway speeds. You're probably 55 max with these things with the 6 and the 3 on the tree. Plenty of torque, a little dusty because I live on a dirt road, but otherwise it's basically the same Jeep with modern AC, modern wiring, and then we converted it over to a 1-wire alternator, which really helps simplify things. And the disc brake conversion. And it's just a great little driver. You just pop the key, she fires right up, and be a great little tool around vehicle to enjoy. And the color is just phenomenal, and I really appreciate them letting us keep it here for this show the Jeep and let you guys see the Jeep. And if you've got any questions about the differences between first generation and second generation Wagoneers and even third, then let me know in the questions, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video.
Speed, camera on sleep. Roll B, scene B2, take 1, Mark.
Action!